All right, now, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at those common issues. And the first issue we're going to look at is anger. When someone is angry, what do they look like? What do they do?
Yeah.
They yell.
Scowl.
Scowl.
Tense.
Tense.
Get red in the face.
They get red in the face.
Get quiet.
Some get quiet.
Some get very loud.
Some get very loud.
Throw things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Some throw things.
Stamp feet.
Stamp feet.
Slam doors.
Slam doors.
Make demands.
Make demands. We could probably go on and on with this, can't we? Anger is not really pretty, is it? And people show their anger in a lot of different ways. So yes, some will be anger and stew in them, while others will just show it and show the world and tell the world how angry they are. Right? They can become abusive. They can do a lot of different things. Anger, but anger is also normal. It's not a sin to be angry. Though some people think it is, it's not a sin to be angry, but can easily turn into one.
The word tells us in your anger, do not sin.
In your anger, do not sin. Absolutely. And so when we look at that then, we see, okay, well, we're going to be angry in life. Things are going to frustrate us. And frustration, I'd say, is somewhere on that scale of anger. Not quite to that point, but it's still there. Something's not going our way. Something is not right. And so we want to look at that. And so to say anger is normal is this. We are created in God's image. So therefore we're created to react body and soul to what is wrong. If we see something wrong, we are probably going to get angry about it. And that's a normal thing. This is what God does too. If He sees these sins going on, if he knows that people are completely turning against Him and such, yes, He is hurt, but He's also angry. We see a lot more of anger in the Old Testament from God about punishment upon nations and people and even people that He loves, this discipline that He has. It's an anger there. We are created, because we're created in God's image, to react to a moral displeasure or outrage. We see Jesus at the temple. We see His anger come at that time. And we see the fact that they were sinning against God in that way. And His anger was just evident. Obviously, Jesus did not sin. But it's about a moral displeasure or outrage. Whenever we see physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, oftentimes we become angry because this is going on, especially if this was being done to a child. Right? And then we get angry. We're like, yeah, that guy deserves to be put somewhere. He deserves to get things cut off. He deserves, or she deserves this, or whatever that might be. We get angry because of this injustice that's been done. And that's a very normal thing. We're created in God's image to do that. Because we are moral beings created in the image of God. But here's the thing. It can be based on what is real or what is perceived. And so we've got Moses in the Ten Commandments. He comes down from there. He has the Ten Commandments. And what does he see? They've built an idol. A cow or a calf, and then they started worshiping. So he got really ticked off, and what did he do? He broke the Ten Commandments. He was so mad, this moral outrage of what they were doing against God. But then you've got Jonah. And God spared the town of Nineveh, and they didn't deserve it. And he was so mad. Because they deserved punishment. And what did he say in Jonah? He's like, I'm so angry I could die. I mean, that's serious anger. And what was going on there is that he perceived something that wasn't quite accurate in God's eyes. Moses did. But for Jonah, it wasn't about... For Jonah, he's like, that's an injustice that you did. But God is also a God of mercy as well. But his anger was based on perception as well. A lot of times have you ever heard of anger management courses? Things? Well, here's a bunch of people that went to anger management. Angry birds. All right, so what does anger look like? We talked a little bit about these. But here's a confidence of being right. Anytime that you're angry, you're always right. Even if you're wrong, you're right. Don't argue with me. I'm right. Shut it. Whatever that might be. But there's a confidence. There's like, I'm right, you're wrong, end of story. There's oftentimes a desire for revenge. I'm going to get even. You know where I see that the most often? I see the desire for revenge the most often in marriages. And it's in subtle ways. It's not in big ways, oftentimes. Sometimes it is. But oftentimes it's just in subtle ways that this goes on. Fine, they do this, I'm going to burn this pancake or something. I'm not going to talk to them tonight. I'm just going to ignore them and be on the other side of the house because I don't want to have anything to do with them. Cursing, we talked about that. Fantasizing about another's misery. Jealousy, grumbling and complaining, cynicism, indifference, and that's almost as bad, or probably if not worse than a lot of these other ones. Just having an indifference towards someone. Whatever, I don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care. And they want nothing to do with the person. It's almost like someone giving the silent treatment. And I always recommend to parents, do not give the silent treatment to your kids. Because then it's almost like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And it's withdrawing from them. And that's just wrong. And of course, we've seen violence as well. But this is just some of the fruit. There's a lot more fruit I'm sure we can think about and discuss for a long period of time. Anger, on the surface, oftentimes can be a cover-up for something deeper. Something going on. Maybe there are deeper issues of hurt and fear. If you encounter someone or know someone or have struggled with anger, then oftentimes there's something more going on than at the surface level. They're maybe afraid of something going on. Afraid of something happening again. The need for control is very high with those who struggle with anger. Oftentimes it hides issues never addressed. Maybe there's a form of grief. A parent died. Or a sibling died. In which case, they've just never dealt with the grief, but they've just showed the anger. Maybe it's shame. Maybe they were sexually abused, or something was done to them, where there's just this shame inside, and so they don't want to feel that, and so what they do is they feel angry instead. Or maybe a guilt. Maybe they did something wrong, or if they think they did something wrong, and they just carry this guilt with them for a long period of time. But the thing is that in order to not show these things, what you do is you keep people at a distance. And in order to keep people at a distance, you show anger. So that they will stay at a distance. So that they will never know the deeper things that go on here. You had mentioned a little bit, Clark, about being quiet, not saying anything. So there can be a quiet anger. Sometimes that shows itself more as depression, and there's more of an anger towards yourself. Right? So there's really going to be, when we look at anger, we've got anger toward God, we've got anger towards others, and we have anger towards ourselves as well. And so that's, when we look at anger, it's usually one of those directions. And oftentimes if you're angry with yourself or you're angry with others, you're already angry with God, because God is the one who gave you A, yourself, B, others, and brought in other people to your lives. And so, anger towards others, in some way, there's an aspect of being angry toward God as well. And so, anger, why is it such an attractive option? Why do people hold on to it for so long? Because we know that Anger itself is just not something that is good to hold on to. But a lot of people want to hold on to it. And so here's what's going on sometimes. When you're angry, you protect what you treasure. So you go to an alcoholic and you maybe take their alcohol away or hide it or dump it. What's going to happen? You'll have the wrath of the alcoholic because they treasure that more than anything. And maybe they treasure other things, like maybe it's the TV, or maybe it's, I don't know, fill in the blank, it could be anything. But the more angry they are, then you'll have an idea of what they treasure more than other things. There's a rush of adrenaline as well. So sometimes some people like to get angry because there's a high as a result. The big thing here is power and control. When someone shows anger, and anger towards other people, what they're trying to do is to gain power or control over the other person. And why they're doing it is probably so they can have their lives in fitting in a box, so that other things won't, or they think that other things then won't happen, that I'll have a content life if I can have everything the way it is. The only way that you can control other people is by anger and by fear. And so anger oftentimes is about power and control, and having power and control over other people, from not getting close or having them do what they need to do, what you think they need to do. Here's the other thing, is that when you're angry, people's perspectives change. And so if you get angry at the fact that someone is in the room with you while you're watching TV, and you get angry, what happens is that they start tiptoeing around you. Or they don't go near you, or they don't go near the room. Or if someone is angry and they go to work, and what they want is they want their lives, they want their house to be perfectly picked up, they want cleanness, they want everything to be perfect around them, that the other person, before they get home from work, is like really having, cleaning up and trying to do everything that they can, so that, because this is important to the other person. And so now their perspective has changed, and now their perspective is, I need to do this to keep them happy. Because the angry person knows that if you show your anger, they will do what you want them to do. Anger works. At least in the short term. Maybe not so in the long term. And here's what anger is. I call it king and queen syndrome. I want what I want when I want it. You will get me what I want because you exist to serve me. And see, when someone is, and this is the sinful nature, and then some, right? Because it all stems from the sinful nature. The sinful nature is all about me, what I want, right? Not about what other people want, but it's about what I want. And therefore, other people exist for your pleasure. So they are either obstacles in your way from getting what you want, or they are your servants to do your bidding. So other people don't exist to be loved, to be desired. They exist for you. And at some level, all of us have this. All of us have that king or queen syndrome inside, that we want what we want when we want it, and we become disappointed or upset or angry when we don't get what we want. At some level. It might not be all the way to violence and abuse and things like that, but it's there because we all have that sinful nature inside. But anger works still. And so when you're mentoring and talking with other people, you're going to be talking with some people that have dealt and are dealing with anger. You might actually be dealing with anger at that time also. And so when we're looking to reveal the heart, we look at things like this to say, what's going on inside their heart? What is it that they're treasuring? What is it that they're trying to control? Why is it that they need this power? You know, what's working for them? What's going on at this level? What is it that they really want? And this is a concept that King Queen Sanu, that's just a concept that just makes it easier for some people to identify with when you're talking about the sinful nature. Because then you can just talk to them and say, okay, well, here's what the king says. The king says, I want what I want when I want it. And so therefore, what is it that you really want? Okay, when you're not getting what you want and so-and-so's not giving it to you, how do you respond? How do you react? Well, like a king or like a queen who says, you deserve punishment. Out with you, banishment, the whip, the rack, you know, whatever that might be, because of being king or queen. So it's just a concept, it's a mental picture to just kind of think about in there.